Hi, I'm Richard Friedman, and welcome to my video cartoon for December 15th, 2025. Here we have Richard's cartoon tribute to Rob Reiner, film director and star of All in the Family, and that was a TV sitcom from 1971 through 1979, who was brutally, have to say it, brutally murdered just the other day by his own son, and very sad. But you got to move on, and I wanted to do this tribute to him. I used to watch that show in the early 1970s through 1971 through the early 70s, and it was really great. I went to school with some people who were like he had his dressed like him and was like that. I myself was more of a middle of the road character. When they took over my school in around 1970, I think it was around 71, in protest of Vietnam, I drove my cab, and I wasn't into protesting and stuff like that. I felt grateful that I had a school to go to, and I was middle of the road, and I think I'm still that. But the thing is that the point of this whole business here is to say that basically the title of the cartoon is Richard's Cartoon Tribute to Rob Reiner, film director and star of All in the Family and Trump's post of December 15th. And this is President Donald J. Trump's post that I'm going to show you here in a little while. And he just did that, and I just want to send that out to you, and you decide how you want to view that. So here is this is the cartoon. And again, this is a very popular TV show from the early 1970s. It showed a working man. He was a prejudiced working man, Archie Bunker, and he married into this Irish Catholic, and his name was Rob Reiner. Played this character, Mike Stivic, who was of Polish descent, and Archie Bunker was a prejudiced working man. I think he worked on the docks, and it took the whole home was in Queens, New York City, and you saw all the houses when the show was introduced, and they really set the stage for the action that was to happen there. And his wife was Edith Bunker, and she went along with it, and she tried to be as nice as she could, very sweet. And his daughter, who was played by I think Sally Struthers, and it was and Edith Bunker. I forget who her name was, but the thing is, it was a great show, and I watched it, and it showed it brought out the kind of the nonsensical position of being prejudiced. It was highly prejudiced. He was highly prejudicial. He was a prejudiced person, and Rob Reiner played the antithesis of that, a real liberal guy who was going to school, and he was studying to be a professor, and he was very liberal, and he dressed like I was saying in that way, and it was an interesting conflict. Each week there was a conflict, and different things would happen. It was a great show. It was funny, and a lot of people. It was a little controversial for the times, but it was one of the top shows then on television, and that was from 1971 to 1979. And here's a cartoon I did based on that, because you have to keep that perspective in mind, that this is Archie Bunker who's portraying this person who is prejudiced, and you have Mike Stivic, his son-in-law, who married his daughter Gloria, and you have this back and forth banter going back and forth between the two of them is a central theme of the show, through all kinds of things that would happen there. So here it was, and this is going back from March 6, 2022. I did this back then, and this was one of the things here. I did a few of these Archie Bunker things, but I thought this would be the most appropriate one to show now. Archie Bunker watching Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. This was when Biden was President Biden, during President Biden's term in March 6, 2022. So Archie Bunker watching Secretary of State Anthony Blinken saying the U.S. is looking for ways for Poland to supply its Soviet-made MiG-29 combat jets to Ukraine. So Biden did not want to send Ukraine sophisticated planes. The idea was that it would take a long time for them to learn how to fly and this and that. So what they made a deal. They talked about making a deal with Poland that we would send Poland some of our more sophisticated planes, and I think it was like the F. I forget what they call it, the F-15 or something like that. In return, they would take their outdated Soviet-built MiGs and send it on to Ukraine. So it was like they were getting new stuff and giving away old stuff to Ukraine and getting newer stuff from the United States. Okay, and that was the deal that was spoke about then. So I want to give you that background here, what was going on there. So again, Secretary of State Blinken saying the U.S. is looking for ways for Poland to supply its Soviet-made MiG-29 combat jets to Ukraine. Okay, and keep in mind that Michael Stivic played a liberal man who was going to school and of Polish descent. So there's nothing against Polish people. It's just to make a point here of what the show is about and the ridiculousness of prejudice, of being prejudiced against any race or group of people. And that was the message of the show, and it did it in that way by highlighting Archie Bunker. And here it goes, and Michael Stivic, and their own banter back and forth, as I said. And here it goes. There's my Polish people, Arch, standing up for the defense of democracy. So Poland was the first country to say we're going to send planes we'd like to send planes to Ukraine to help them out there this was the beginning stages of the Russian invasion of that country, Ukraine. And then Archie says, "Now wait just a minute, meathead." That's what he always calls him, the meathead. That was his nickname, and that's what he till the end. A lot of people would call him that in jest and affectionately. I think they didn't mean it harmfully, because he was a very brilliant and great man in his own right. But they would probably joked around with him. Just don't get so excited. Just wait until your dumb Polacks deliver the planes with their own markings on them. In other words, the Poles are not too bright, and they're going to deliver the planes with the Polish emblems on the plane. So Putin would think that they would forget to do that. Take the emblems off the plane, the Polish insignias, okay, off the planes, markings on them, and Putin thinks he's under attack by a whole damn Polak Air Force. So that was the whole thing there, and that was designed. Basically taking what I did with this cartoon is to show that Ukraine needed more. They needed to control the air. The air was critical for them. They were being bombarded from the air. They needed defenses, air defenses, and at the same time, I wanted to highlight this here at the same time. So it was many things I had in mind. I put it all together, and I did this back in March 6, 2022. And I just looked at, before presenting this to you, I looked it up, and that's just what happened. Blinken was talking there, and he was Anthony Blinken, who was Secretary of State under Biden then. He was just talking about that. And finally, I think recently, they made a deal now. They're going to send more planes to Poland is going to send more planes, more of those Soviet-era planes to Ukraine. And I think that just recently happened. The balance of whatever they have left, they're going to send to Ukraine. So I think that's very recent development. A few days ago, I think I read that. So there it was. That was a cartoon. This was Archie Bunker here, and this was Rob Reiner playing Michael Stivic of Polish descent. And there, I just take a last look at it. I tried to capture them both there, and they're watching this. Anthony Blinken on television talking about that, and Mike taking pride in his Polish descent, again saying, "There's my Polish people are standing up for the defense of democracy," because they were the first ones, as I said before, They were the first ones, first country to come to the aid of Ukraine in terms of sending them air defenses. And there you have that. Okay, so let's give Rob Reiner here the last portrayal here of him as Michael Stivic in tribute to him. All right, now what I did here is I thought I would just give you this card. This is not really a cartoon because this is what President Trump said word for word. So I'm going to read it to you and then give you some of my own little thoughts about it. I'm not going to really go deep. I'm not here to do that. I'm not here to be a commentator. I'm just going to give it to you here as presented to you as the way President Trump wrote it exactly word for word. And here it was. And it goes like this. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away. Together with his wife, Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding, and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS, Trump deranged syndrome. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob Reiner and Michelle rest in peace. December 15th, 2025, 8:51 a.m. December 15th, 2025, 8:51 p.m. Okay, there it was. Donald J. Trump. Okay, and the only thing I'm really going to say here about this is that nobody has the right to say that somebody should die because who they supported. You know, nobody really, and that's really the point here, that there isn't anybody who has the right to say that because this person supported. Now I wrote a tribute to Charlie Kirk, and I don't think anybody came out and said Charlie Kirk was assassinated because he supported Donald Trump. I mean, nobody has, just because they support somebody doesn't mean that they don't have the right to live. I mean, nobody should be struck down or assassinated for who they support, and to it seems to me that President Trump here is implying that Rob Reiner, it's almost he stopped short of saying Rob Reiner got what he deserved for speaking out against some of the things, policies of Donald Trump that he didn't like, and that his son somehow was angered by this or upset about this and took it out on him. That's the implication. Nobody could come away from this, because his son now is in prison for having allegedly done this. So you have to, when you put it all together, that's a fair assumption to make. So the fact is that there's no indication that the fact is there were problems there, interpersonal problems with his son, and this manifested itself into the point where a point of no return, and to jump in as a president of the United States and to say a thing like this again during a time when we have here what went on in Australia with the attack on the Jewish people, and then the thing at Brown University up in Providence, Rhode Island, where there's still somebody on the loose, so they haven't found them yet, the gunman, and all this tension in the air that exists to pour gasoline on the fire. It seems President Trump just poured gasoline on the fire to say that this guy got what he deserved. I mean, it sounds like there's some reason why that this went on in Australia. There's another reason why it went on in Stanford. I mean, there's ulterior reasons here. To inject that is to into one situation like this is to inject it into other situations, like what happened, like I just mentioned. So you're inject by talking that way. You're injecting uncertainty. You're adding fuel to the fire with more uncertainty, and it's not the right thing to do. And I'm not going to condemn President Trump and get on the, and I'm just saying, in my view, it's the wrong thing to do, and leave it at that. But that was the idea here. Is I wanted to convey this post that President Trump did put up, and saying. Incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump deranged, sometimes referred to, he was known to have driven people crazy. So, in other words, he's saying here that he drove his son crazy by with this Trump syndrome, and there's no indication of anything like that happening, and it's not been investigated, and nobody ever heard the boy, the man, he was 33 years old, talking objecting about his father. This and that. So it's like a pie. I don't know what to say. I just say I don't think it was the right thing to do, and you be the judge of that. Thank you for watching my video, folks. God bless you. Hang in there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.